welcome everyone to the final Magic Sandwich show of 2012. And what an extraordinary year it's been. I've made a note of some of the guests that we've had on during the course of the show, and I have to say it's an awesome list. Andy Thompson, Dr. Lona Frank, David Silverman, Richard Dawkins, Sean Fairclough, Phil Moriarty. There were other low points such as Seitem Bruggencate and Eric Hovind, and Samuel and Rolf Lamper, the creationists from Sweden, but I guess they were quite interesting. Michael Payton, Theoretical Bullshit, and the backbone of the whole show, Concordance and Thunderfoot. And we have managed to get some of those who have appeared previously on the show back on, including David Silverman, who will be going to very shortly. And we also have lined up non-stamp collector who will be joining us later on in the show. It's about 5 o'clock in the morning where he is, so it'll be a couple of hours, I think, before he gets out of bed. And we'll also have Phil Moriarty back towards the end of the show as well. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm going to start off with David Silverman. It's been one hell of a year for you, David. Talk us through it, and which have been the highlights for you?
Well, obviously, by far the highlight of the year was the Reason Rally. That was something that I've been working on with most of the other leaders of the movement for up to 2 years. It was a 2-year effort, and we got 30,000 people, 30,000 smiling atheists in the rain, which is more than we had expected. We were talking about 10,000 people. We were talking, maybe 15,000, and we got 30,000 in the rain. That was, the epic event of the year. So, certainly the most fun weekend I've had. And it's something, and, we're going to have another one in 2016, and the Reason Rally Coalition lives on, and everybody is excited about the future. I think, however, the biggest plus from the Reason Rally, there were so many victories from that. The biggest plus was that it was the first time that all of the organizations in the movement got together and did something at once, at the same time, with money involved toward a common goal. And not only did we survive through it, but we triumphed and we kicked ass. It was an absolutely spectacular experience, with all of us working together. With me and Annie Laurie Gaylor and Roy Specker and Ron Lindsay and Margaret Downey, all working together to create this incredible event. So, if I were to put together the highlights of 2012, I've got other highlights that I'll talk about, but the Reason Rally sits above all of that. The Reason Rally was the bee's knees as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we'll come on to other highlights, but let's just
actually, DPR, if I may, I think that deserves a round of applause. Hey!
I want to stick on the Reason Rally.
You've got one fan in the crowd.
I want to stick on the Reason Rally for the moment, because I know that for Seth Andrews, who has now just joined us, that was a highlight as well. What are your comments about the Reason Rally, Seth?
Well, I have never in my life ever gone on a type of Woodstock pilgrimage. You always hear about people talking about they went to an event to be part of something, and I always, those of us who were not a part of the 60s, I was born in the 60s for people, I just never really got it. But I remember when I heard about the Reason Rally, I thought I must be a part of it. I have to be there. And I remember buying my plane ticket. I went by myself, didn't have anybody here. I was going, I know some Tulsa people went, but I just sort of went. And I just went, and I took a camera, and I just thought, whatever happens, however it happens, I just want to be there and see it firsthand. And it is the only time in my life I've ever really had that feeling about an event. And I walked away not disappointed, but really encouraged and empowered. And I thought, it was drizzly, it was chilly. I mean, many people would say, oh, God, it was miserable. Everybody was smiling. Everybody was engaged. Everybody felt like they, and look, I got 20,000 people around me who don't think I'm nuts. I have 20,000 people around me who get me, who understand that I want to live my life truthfully, no matter how inconvenient. And you should have seen the T-shirts and the people were fun and funny, and there was sort of a communal atmosphere. And I rode that high for weeks. I rode it for weeks. And if they have another one, in whenever year that is, I'm in. I'm totally there.
David, let's go back to you. That's obviously praise indeed.
By the way, Seth, great videos on the Reason Rally. I must tell you, you did some great work for the videos on the Reason Rally, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I thought, yeah, we all try to play to our gifts, and I was thinking, how can I help? And so I just wanted to try to mark the day. I think I did a promo for the event, and we did like a recap, sort of a see the event through one guy's eyes kind of experience video after the fact. And I was very proud of both of them. And I honestly, it was an honor that you guys showed them and used them. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure. And also I gotta acknowledge Thunderfoot and Christina Rod and Aaron, who put together the promo video and the promo video contest for the Reason Rally. They you know, like I said, this was an incredible team effort, and I'm really proud of how it came out.
Pleasure.
You mentioned other highlights, David. Let's hear a few of those.
Well, we followed the Reason Rally with our largest American Atheist convention ever, and it was our most fun American Atheist convention ever. One of the things that I feel very strongly about is that conventions need to be fun. They need to be informative, they need to be empowering, but they also need to be fun. The reason that I have this opinion is because when I first started going to these conventions, I didn't go to many of the speakers. I didn't find them all that interesting way back then. And the reason I kept going was because the people were awesome. And so we put together a convention that followed the Reason Rally that turned out to be bigger than TAM. We had 1,350 people, and it was, again, it was 1,350 smiling faces running up and down the halls, cheering for standing ovations for almost every speaker. It was great. We had a costume dinner party, it was just such a great social experience. So we really had a good time with that.
If I may, that was also the event that, if I recall, it was where Teresa McBain came out, right? She made her first public statement of non-belief, and the entire audience of 1,000 people just hugged her with their applause and with their enthusiasm.
Wasn't that emotional? I mean, that was so great to see. I mean, there are so many closeted atheists who come to the American Atheist Convention longing for that sense of accomplishment, and to see a pastor abandon her career because it's a lie, and because she knows that she was doing something immoral by staying in that lie, and to come out and to be welcomed by the whole community like that, it was just so stirring. And I'm so proud of Teresa for being able to do that, and of course Mike Owls, who did it just before that, and of course Jerry DeWitt, who did it first. It was just such a stirring experience. Something that I'll remember forever. I just loved it. And then, of course, Teresa came to work for American Atheists, and she's been a jewel since then. The other thing that has happened, of course, you know, if we shift gears a little bit, American Atheists did win a lawsuit at the Supreme Court earlier in March when the state of Utah tried to put crosses up on the side of the road because crosses are not religious symbols. They tried
that
to
was hilarious, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think hilarious is the word, Thunderfoot. I think the word is insidious.
They represent a philosophy, not a religion. I don't know what the problem is. Yeah,
it's amazing how much they will say they support the government of the United States and at the same time try to usurp it by lying. And by using dead cops as a shield. Oh, you're attacking the crosses on public road. You're attacking the families of dead cops. How dare you do that? How dare you atheists stoop so low as to attack the dead cops that we're using as a shield to declare the cross secular, so that we can put it up in schools and federal buildings without regard to the Constitution? How dare you atheists do such a terrible, un-American thing? It made me so angry to do this case, because all they had to do to make this case go away was to say, oh yeah, if a Jewish cop dies, we'll put up a Jewish star. They wouldn't. If an atheist cop dies, we'll put up something else. They wouldn't. They insisted that all the memorials had to be 12-foot tall steel crosses because the cross is secular. And it was complete bullshit. I mean, let's just put it on the table. It was a lie. It was a scheming, immoral lie. Horrible, horrible thing to do. And American atheists took them all the way to the Supreme Court and won. Thank you very much. So we protected the schools. As soon as that passed, as soon as that went off, and as soon as it became precedent, you know, I don't want to say it, so I'll just say, you know that when a school tragedy happened, the next thing that would happen would be the secular cross would be appearing on school grounds. And then we'd be fighting against dead children to take that cross off. So, and given the tragedy in Newtown, you can certainly see where that might have happened. And we have to realize that our adversaries are not Christian people. They're Christian organizations. And these organizations are not friendly. They're not nice. They're not honest. They're not ethical. The Christian people are fine, but the Christian organizations sometimes behave in extremely unethical ways. And it falls to us to defend the Constitution and to defend the non-religious population. And it bothers me so much that we had to fight the Utah case because it was so slimy. It was so sneaky and so slimy.
But I think I think it's one of those things, though, that when you actually when this is played out on the public stage, and you do get these Christians who turn up and with a straight face claim that the cross is a secular symbol and not a Christian one, they come across as slimy. I mean, it's just so outrageously detached from reality. The cross is a religious symbol. It's been a religious symbol for 2,000 years. It's not a secular symbol. And for these people purporting to, I mean, I agree with you that the using the cops to, the dead cops to emotionally blackmail people, that's really cheap. But I mean, I think they dig their own grave making silly claims like that.
I think they do. And, I went on, during the height of that case, I was asked to go on to the Catholic Radio Network. And this is something that I'll remember for a long time. The Catholic Radio Network was on satellite radio. They treated me extremely well. And they said, Dave, at the beginning of the show, they said, Dave, you're on a Catholic radio network, you're opposing the cross, you're in the lion's den now. And I said, that's okay. I'm going to convince you all that I'm right. And they said, okay, do it. And I proceeded to do it. And the callers came in, all of the callers came in expressing the opinion that I was right and that the cross is Christian. Of course it's Christian. Because they're not stupid people. They're just wrong. They're just wrong about their religion. And they're victims of their indoctrination. They're not stupid people, and they know bullshit when they see it and when they hear it. And when I went on O'Reilly, you made a reference to it earlier. When I went on O'Reilly, and O'Reilly said, "Oh, Christianity is a philosophy," I got calls from Christians telling me I was right. Not that they agreed with me, but that I was right. That I was not a fascist, and that Christianity is, of course, a religion. And so I think you're right, Thunder. I think the people do see it, and I think what we're seeing is a panic, not from the Christian people, but from the Christian organizations who are being forced to deal with the equality issues, are being forced to deal with the fact that they are anti-equality and that their position is anti-equality, and there is no good defense for an anti-equality position in a free country.
I just want to say that I'm very grateful that there are people out there like you, David, that are willing to do this, because I know I'm not alone, feel very squeamish about these kinds of legal proceedings and the PR perception that they create, that people are going to see, atheism is all about attacking Christianity, the war on Christmas, we can't have our crosses even though that these men were Christians. It's restrictions on what we can do. And I really hadn't made the connection or the distinction between the organizations and the people. But I've seen the same thing in the creationist circles, and particularly the Discovery Institute, which has its spokespeople saying things that they don't truly even believe as a strategic maneuver. Because all of this is going to end up in court, and it's going to be arbitrated in court. And I'm glad that there are people that understand the legal proceedings better than I do, that are in a position where they can respond, because I don't think most of us think in those terms. We think in terms of tell the truth or don't tell the truth, and of course in a in a legal situation the distinctions are much finer.
And it's the exact same situation that's happening in the World Trade Center. Okay, in the World Trade Center, they took a 20-foot cross. Now, just look at this for a second. Okay, the World Trade Center was built on cross beams. Okay, hundreds of cross beams survived the fall. They took one, they straightened it, they repaired it. They took that thing on one of the arms, they took that off, they repaired it, put it back on, made it look nice, carved Jesus in the top of it, carved prayers along the side, put it in front of a church for 5 years, collected donations, then in a ceremony led solely by a priest, lowered it into the memorial. The priest lowered it in a religious ceremony, consecrated the public ground on which the memorial sits, and then looked at the world and said, this is not a religious symbol. It's crap. It's a 20-foot tall religious cross, 20 feet. Now, most ceilings are 10 feet. So just think about it. It's a 20-foot tall steel cross in the World Trade Center, and they're saying it's secular. And when we say no, it's religious, and you have to represent the atheists who died on 9/11, well, guess what? We're fighting against the families of the people who died on 9/11. We're fighting on the side of the terrorists. And for taking the stand, we're taking a stand for equality. And, the Constitution, the American law, the American right, they are taking the stand against equality for their unequal representation of Christianity in the World Trade Center Memorial. That's crap. And it's a lie. And we need people to see it. And the good news is that a lot of people do. The good news is that people are seeing quite clearly that this is a religious monument. It's clearly a religious thing. And we're filing that lawsuit. We did file that lawsuit because that's also a clear win. It's also a clear endorsement of one religion over another in the worst place possible. The monument of the World Trade Center. This is where they want to have a battle. This is where they want to have a religious battle. Let me tell you what we're asking for in this battle. We are asking for we're asking for equal representation. And in order to get equal representation, you can take the cross out, or you can take an existing artifact, an existing exhibit, and dedicate it to the atheists. A plaque makes the lawsuit go away. Just like saying we'll allow a Star of David if the dead cop who dies is a Jew, a plaque will make this whole lawsuit go away. Why won't they do that? Because they want a Christian monopoly in the World Trade Center. That's their objective. And they want to secularize the cross. Again, that's their objective. If they want to make this lawsuit go away, this lawsuit's going to cost over $1 million to go to the Supreme Court, which it will. All they have to do is say, oh yeah, atheists died too. Here's a plaque. American atheists will pay for the plaque. They won't do it because that's not their actual intent. they want monopoly for Christianity in the World Trade Center Memorial. It's scummy, it's slimy, and it's wrong, and that's why we're fighting that as well. But it's the same thing. You see, concordance, it's the same thing. They are just using tragedy to use it as a shield so that they can kind of push more Christianity in our way, so that they can actually Christianize 9/11. That's what we're stopping, and that's what we're going to continue to stop. So I'm very happy that that we were filing that lawsuit as well, and I'm glad you understand concordance, because this is something, you know, from a public relations standpoint, it's the worst thing we can do. It's the worst thing we can do. To file any complaint against 9/11 it's the worst thing we can do. But it's also absolutely mandatory. But let's not forget, they're the bad guys using 9/11 for their own gain. And we're the good guys protecting the Constitution and everybody else from the religionists, not all religionists, not all Christians, but the Christians the Christian organizations who want to be given relevance, given priority by having an artifact or by having a Christian symbol and nobody else in the memorial. It's kind of scummy, and I'm glad we're fighting that fight.
It's one of those things. If I were a Christian, I'm not so sure I would want a cross taken from the ruins of where 3,000 people died, in that it's more or less a monument to the impotence of their God. You know, it's one of those 3,000 people died, and all I got was this cross salvaged out of the ruins. I mean, what does that say about this God of yours?
And that's exactly right. I mean, the God, I mean, you can imagine God sitting there, this omniscient God sitting there watching, doing nothing, letting the planes crash into the buildings, let all those people die, and then, oh, here's a cross to let you know I still love you. What a waste. Why in the world would anybody pray to such a God? Such a useless, impotent God. Or a non-existent God. You can pick. Either God is useless and impotent, or he's non-existent.
I'm going to go back to the Reason Rally when we take our first caller, who is Carter. And just to remind people, we will be coming to the Thinking Atheist and Dark Matter very shortly. David probably only has another 5 or 10 minutes left for us, which is why I'm concentrating on him at the moment. But we will be coming to our other two special guests. But I know that Carter wanted to raise a point about the Reason Rally. Carter.
Yeah. Well, I was under the impression that this was a recap of 2012 and some of the best moments. And that was most definitely one of mine. I was super, thanks David, and thanks to actually everyone who was involved in that. I don't know. I mean, everything that I wanted to say has already kind of been said. It was just, I mean, it was a really shitty day. I was expecting it to be awesome. It was overcast the whole day, and it just fucking rained the whole time. And then I got there really early, and then I had to keep my spot because I didn't want to lose my spot, so I didn't go to the bathroom. So I'm just like standing there the whole day, and then the guy behind me starts throwing up, and it was just like, oh fucking A. But it was just one of the best times of my life this whole year. It was really like all these horrible things happened, but I don't know. I've never been in such a large community of people that at least shared one thing in common, and it was just, I don't know. It was. I've only ever been like one-on-one, and since that, like I felt more comfortable with coming out in public, which is really, it was something like at work, I had a conversation with a buddy, and he discovered that I was an atheist. And then I found out he was too. And I was like, oh, sweet, now we have this mutual thing. And then we found out a third coworker, she's an atheist, and her father also went to the Reason Rally. And I was like, wow, this community of people that I work with almost every day, I never even knew. And I don't know, that kind of stuff.
This must warm your heart, David.
Well, this was the point. This was the point. I still get emails from people telling me that they went back to school. There was no SSA organization in school, so they started one. They looked for a meetup. They found a meetup. They didn't find a meetup. They started a meetup. This was the point, and to say that it warms my heart is such an understatement. It's the best thing that I've done so far in my life. And it's certainly something that I'm thrilled to have been able to lead the other organizers, the equal board members in the Reason Rally board. They worked with me, and they worked with me in great in great earnest. And so I feel wonderful about it from all different directions. And I can't tell you how much happiness I derive from hearing stories about people who went back and came out, who went back and came out and found others who came out. This is the explosion that we are seeing. This is it. This is this is the critical mass, as Richard Dawkins said. This is it. By the time we're all old people, the country will be different. The country will be more secular. We are going to see the country evolve. And the Reason Rally had a part in that. And I'm really thrilled to have. I'm really proud, and I'm really thrilled, and it still chokes me up to this day to hear stories like that.
Dark matter.
Can you guys hear me okay? I'm not sure if my mic is
perfectly, yeah.
okay. David, first I wanted to thank you and also to ask a question, to thank you for putting your neck out there. Also because I know more than most what you probably have to deal with. So my grandfather was a very outspoken activist in like the early 80s, when I was just a little kid. He was involved with a big lawsuit to have this huge cross removed from a public park near our house. And he was in the real estate. He owned a lot of properties around there, and a lot of his tax money was going towards paying for religious decorations everywhere. And as an atheist, he didn't like that. And it was a big dramatic thing. The whole town got involved. He lost the case. They think that there was a lot of pressure on the judge. The whole town would show up at the court, and it went to the appellate court, and he won in a matter of minutes. They overturned the decision, and the cross was promptly moved to a church where it belongs. And what happened afterward was this deluge of threats against our lives, against the lives of his family, against me, a little kid. This was before the days of caller ID, where he'd get these calls all day, every day, and he'd write down, as quickly as he could, the time, what was said. And, and after my grandfather died many years later, like 1998, and we're going through his stuff, and, I was just flipping through this notebook and seeing all these death threats against him and, his family for something as trivial as a cross in a park. And I wonder what kind of, do you get these kind of threats, from people? I mean, I wonder what your mail must look like sometimes.
Yeah, I do. I get a lot of threats. Some of them seem very real, especially around the Christmas time. Every time I go on Fox News, but this December, I've had a lot of death threats, and they are death threats against me, and they're going to get my family too. And we had to file a lot of paperwork and all sorts of stuff. And I've got security system in my house, and I am a gun owner, and it sucks. It sucks because they don't realize how they don't realize that I'm the good guy. They don't realize that we're the good guys, that all we're asking for and demanding is the equality that's guaranteed to us in the Constitution. So yeah, the threats are frequent, sometimes constant. And it's discouraging. It's also encouraging because that's panic. It's discouraging because yes, I have to have a super security system in my house, and yes, I have to, lock up American Atheist headquarters extra tight and have the security cameras all around there. It's discouraging, and I wish it would stop, but it's not going to stop me. I have been the threats are almost always empty. I have been told that if I ever went on television again, I'd be shot. And then I went on television again, and I wasn't shot. It's discouraging, and it's hateful, and it's horrible. It's horrible. It's the worst side of religion, right? That's what we're all fighting. We're not fighting the good side of religion. We're not fighting the helping people enjoy to the world. We're fighting the bad part of religion, which is the people who are so brainwashed that they get violent when they're challenged. And this is something that it's going to be par for the course. It will fade over time, and we still will win. And I think the most important thing that people need to understand is that if I do get shot, there are people behind me who will take my place and perhaps do what I do better. And I think that's what's going on. Now, there have been no attempts on my life, but there have been many, many threats. And I'm not the only one, but I get the impression that I'm getting the brunt of them. And it's kind of sucky.
Concordance.
But it's not going to stop me.
The one thing that concerns me, David, and this has always been my one concern, is that with American Atheists leading the charge, it looks as though it is sort of atheism attacking religion, as opposed to defending the principle of secularism on which our society is based. It would be, I think, a better PR position if we had, say, what is the Coalition for the Separation of Church and State. There are a number of organizations which are not explicitly atheist, which champion secular causes. Even the ACLU. What worries me in terms of a PR nightmare, and again, I'm glad you're out there challenging these things, is that it appears to be a unilateral war, and that's certainly how it's positioned on Fox News, between religious and the non-religious, as opposed to a unified principle that, at least in my area, if we had prayer in schools, it would be a Catholic prayer, right? And all the Hindu kids and all the Muslim kids and all the kids with religious affiliations other than Catholicism would certainly not like that, including all the Southern Baptists. I don't understand why it has to be atheist versus religious. It really should be people of all faiths and none coming together for what is a fundamental concept in a plural society.
Well, it's an excellent question. The answer is that it should be all of the above. The answer is that if we just concentrated on the separation of church and state, which Americans United does with excellence, there would be a much longer road to atheist equality. American Atheists is a firm and staunch supporter of the absolute separation of church and state, but we are about atheists. And that means that we have to erase the bigotry against atheists, and that means we have to erase the myth that atheists don't exist. And if you go back maybe even 5 years, maybe 7 years, you will come to a point in time where most people did not think there were a substantial amount of atheists in this country. So American Atheist takes the stance of atheism against theism in our face. We're not out to destroy atheism. We're not out to destroy theism, rather. We've never taken a stance against theism or against anybody's right to believe. We always take a separation of church and state stance, but we do it from the perspective of equality, atheist equality. And that's what we're going for here. Now, Fox News will portray us as Fox News portrays us. And they're going to do that whether we say something or not. One of the things that we've learned from Fox News is that they will paint, and it's not just Fox News. You can see it from the Pope as well. It's the evil atheists against religions. Now that's not true, but that's what they're portraying it as, And even if we sit silent, that's still what they're going to portray it as. So we won't sit silent. And we'll go on television and we'll say, hey, this is about equality. This is about atheists coming out of the closet. You know, I go on these shows with O'Reilly and with Hannity, and I simply make the, you know, and they say, you're a fascist. And I say, I'm demanding equality, which is a constitutional right. And the Christians call me and tell me I'm right. So, yeah, yes, American Atheists clearly, emphatically, does not represent all atheists. Clearly and emphatically, I state American Atheists and David Silverman does not represent all atheists. But we do represent ourselves, and we do have a voice. And our voice is equality for atheists now, not because we're requesting it, because we are fucking demanding it. And that's the position that we take. And if you're into a softer side of that, that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing with our position. The American Humanist Association is a great organization. CFI is a great organization. They take a softer side. Maybe you'll feel more at home with them. But as far as the answer to your question, why do we have to take this position? The answer to your question is we all have to take our positions. Because we all have the right to say it, and we all need to be heard so that the message that the atheism movement is broad can get out there. A good example is the recent article on CNN about the billboard that was just put up in Times Square, where we said, keep the married, dump the myth. And they compared that to Greg Epstein over at Harvard Humanists doing some food drive, I believe it was, with some churches. Well, I hate to say it, but that article isn't getting written, and Greg Epstein's group is not getting any publicity without Keep the Married, Dump the Myth in Times Square. Okay? The comparison isn't getting out there unless there's something to compare to. The breadth isn't getting out there unless there's something to talk about. So Harvard Humanists got some really good publicity on CNN because of the American Atheists' harder line billboard in Times Square. That's the big point. Everybody sees everything, and everybody talks.
What is in store for American Atheists in 2013, and you know, 2012 is going to be a difficult year to follow. But secondly, as well, if you may, you mentioned several times your obvious optimism that the tide is turning. Are there any figures to support your optimism?
Well, every figure supports our optimism. Every poll that comes out shows that atheism is rising and Christianity and religious declining. The growth of the nuns is huge. And make no mistake, I do contend that most of the nuns are atheists. I do make that position that those people who are spiritual just need to be sat down and reasoned with for 2 or 3 minutes to become atheists. Just ask them, well, do you believe that, or do you wish it were true? And that's kind of like a magic question. So I point to every single poll that's out there, but I also point to my personal experience. And my personal experience, I don't know if you can see this, I'm wearing an Atheist in Foxhole sweatshirt. And my personal experience is I am that guy who wears atheist stuff to the airport everywhere I go. I wear atheist stuff. I am a walking, talking atheist billboard, and it used to be that I got stopped all the time with negative comments. I haven't gotten stopped with a negative comment in 3 years. 3 years. And that is wearing atheist stuff to every airport in the Midwest, in the South, everywhere. 3 years, nobody has stopped to tell me anything bad. They always give me a thumbs up. I get thumbs up. I get comments, positive all the time now, comments from the security people in line, from people in line who are waiting to go through security, from the flight attendants. The attitude is palpable and it's changeable, and
yes, I'm talking about personal experience, so it's not scientifically valid, but it's still how I support the position. We are exploding. Oh, and if you want to talk numbers, just look at the Secular Student Alliance. The Secular Student Alliance is exploding, and the Pew research that just came out that said that for the first time, more than half of the Americans would vote for a president who is an atheist. That's not the important part of that Pew research. Everybody was talking about that piece of the Pew research. The most important part of that Pew research was that 70% of the under 30 crowd would vote for an atheist president. And that means that in 20 years, 70% of the under 50 crowd will vote for an atheist president, assuming no growth. So it's coming up. The young people are our people. And I'll just say it, the old people are dying. And so every pointer that I see is pointing in the right direction, and every personal experience that I'm having is pointing in the right direction. And so that's something that I'm really confident with. I'm really confident. We got 30,000. Seth used the wrong number. The number was 30,000 at the recent rally. It's incredible. In the rain. That was the largest atheist event in world history by a factor of 10. That's crazy. It's explosive, and we're all in the middle of the part of it, and we're all part of it. And yeah, I am running short on time, so I'm just going to skip the two last things that I'd like to mention. One is that the convention in Austin, the hotel is about to sell out. Okay, we're about to max out the hotel block. We're going to have to go to an overflow hotel. It's going to be a fantastic convention, and most importantly, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast, and we're putting in a whole bunch of stuff to make sure that people not only come out empowered and more knowledgeable, but with a great big smile on their face. And that's on March 28th through 30th. I am hoping that this is going to be larger than the convention in Washington, D.C. We're hoping for 1,500 people at this convention. And that's where our max out point is. So that's Easter weekend in March. The one last thing that I'd like to mention is something that I'm extremely proud of and we've been working on for a while, and that is the American Atheist lawsuit against the IRS, which we just filed last week, which is an attack, which is a defense, rather, against a discrimination against atheists in the Internal Revenue Service. Right now, religious institutions are different from other 501c3 institutions. As a 501c3 educational organization, American Atheist reports its income, reports how we spend our money, and reports our major donors. The religious organizations out there do not report their income, do not report their salaries. So my salary is public knowledge, but Pat Robertson's is not. And how American Atheist spends its money is public knowledge, and how the 700 Club spends its money is not public knowledge. They actually get to not file their forms. It costs American Atheists and every other secular organization money, and it costs religious organizations none, and the only difference is because it's religious. And we think that needs to go away. And we have put together a fantastic, winnable, solid lawsuit that will go to the Supreme Court, I'm sure, and it will attack the religious exemptions for 501c3s. Note, this is not an attempt to tax the church. This is an attempt to equalize the code so that the churches file the same paperwork as non-religious institutions and pay the same fees as non-religious institutions. Most importantly, declare their income just like everybody else. Declare how they spend their money just like everybody else. This is a long time coming lawsuit, and we have a $100,000 match going on that will allow people to donate at atheists.org to cover this lawsuit, and every dollar is matched 1-for-1. This is going to be the lawsuit that affects everybody's life, because we are going to equalize the tax code in the IRS. This is the lawsuit that will make it even at the Internal Revenue Service. And we need your help. So please donate before the end of the year if you can to get your tax deduction for the end of the year. Every dollar is 1-for-1 matched.
and we need your help. So thank you very much. That's what's coming down the pike. We're just going to have the biggest convention that we've ever had and the biggest lawsuit that we ever had. That's what's
well, I hope to actually be in Texas in March, so I hope to be seeing you there. But can I just thank you very much indeed for your time. If you want to send me details of the information that you just referred to, I'll include it in the links to the description when these videos are put onto YouTube. But could I invite everyone, please, to give a huge thumbs up for David for taking time out on a busy day for him, I know.
Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much indeed, David. I'm going to let you go.